Thank you very much, Mr. Williams, and thank you for the enlightenment that you gave earlier regarding the availability of factual and reliable information with respect to the COVID. When I first spoke at a briefing session, I said that this really was an interesting time, and it continues to be so. I would want to remind persons that there has been nothing like this in living memory. We are all on uncharted waters. And that is why when the pandemic unfolded with a swiftness and a vengeance, people everywhere were caught by surprise. And it brought into question the concept of intelligence. How could, for example, the most powerful country in the world not foreseen, not understand what was unfolding in the most populous of countries, mainland China? How could they not know? And I want to put that into perspective. No country anywhere has been prepared for COVID-19. Not China, not Italy, not the United States of America, nowhere in Europe has anyone been prepared for this. We are fortunate that for such a time like this in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have a cadre of leadership that took notice early and was able to put a plan in place which we are now implementing in a more successful way. Is it a perfect plan? No, because none has ever been created perfectly in the world. When the story book is written about the pandemic, how it battered and bruised mankind and threatened our way of life, some outstanding persons and countries are going to emerge. And I am very certain that this, the smallest independent country, will emerge as a success story. Already, some have taken note of the fact that we, the smallest country, was able to keep the pandemic at bay for as long as was reasonably possible. We were the last among the independent states for which the pandemic visited. That has been a success then for our method of advanced planning. And I want to commend the Chief Medical Officer and the medical fraternity, including the medical chief of staff, who have been among the cadre of excellent health professionals that are now in service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I want you to give a hand of commendation as we extend happy birthday to Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel. And she has in turn, she didn't bring to us any cake or wine. Perhaps those are against the laws. Indeed, she could only acquire them wholesale, and there are no wine cups or glasses. But what she has given to us today is a shining example of how patriotism must move each of us. What she has given to St. Kitts and Nevis is a very special gift of excellence in service and a perseverance in fulfillment of an urgent task. And for that, my cabinet and I, and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, would long remember her long remember her of one of the best CMOs, and indeed you have heard before me by those more eminently qualified than I am, that she is the best CMO we have had in a long while. So I commend her. But equally sitting here, in my view, is one of the best medical chiefs of staff that we have witnessed. Because in the context of the overriding burden of management of a health system with limited resource that has been inherited, our Chief of Staff, Dr. Cameron Wilkerson, have shown a great enthusiasm and a great commitment to the urgency of now. And he knows that his redemption song, like Socrates, must be this virus pass, St. Kitts and Nevis, because we work so hard as an all of society response to this pandemic. His inspiration of the health workers in the front line I want to commend, because I hear both nurses and doctors say how impressed and how motivated they have been, Dr. Wilkerson, by your own love for the job, as they express it. And I want you to continue to encourage them and to nurture them to excellence. Because ultimately, I am reminded of something that Professor Rex Nettleford many times seemed anxious about. Who are we as Caribbean people? Where do we stand in the world stage? Why do we always have that sense of self-doubt about ourselves, about our institutions, and their comparative advantage and competitiveness to the rest of the world? And he often would say in conversations, as I attended forums of the University of the West Indies in Mona, in my capacity as Minister of Education, all we have is us. All we have is us. What then do you do when you recognize that in the context of the pandemic, all we have is us? The people who love St. Kitts and Nevis, and we are not conflicted by loyalty to any other person or country. All we have is us. All we have is us. So we can afford to be patient. We can afford, as it were, to inspire others to do the right thing every day. We can't wait for the United States of America to send us no resources. They are challenged. We can't wait for any other country. Our first response must be us. And so we have to find the shining stars, like Dr. Hazel, Laws, and Dr. Cameron Wilkerson, that every day remind our nurses, our doctors, our security officers, that all we have are you to get the job done. And this is your testing time, your time of challenge. But out of this test must come your redemption song. And people in St. Kitts and Nevis, as people everywhere, would have to appreciate that in the task of nation building, sacrifices have to be made. And it sometimes baffles me that some people who ought to know better pretend that they don't understand. We are in a real war for survival. And that is why, we need the patience, because all we have is us. If we begin to fight, then we are limiting the reservoir of resources that we have. All we have is us. When in abnormal times, people want things that could only happen in a normal context to happen, we are going to have a problem. And it brings into focus the lesson, I think it was in the book of Acts. No pastor's here to help me. Chapter 8 and verse 31. The question was put, do you understand what you read? And the answer was given by another question. How can I unless somebody guide me? How can I? It was the Ethiopian eunuch. Yes. How can I unless somebody guide me? Somebody must teach me. And today I had every reason to be proud as I walked to Bastia to get a first-hand knowledge of how our people were responding to the zoning. Somebody called me to say how the zoning going to work. I said, by the end of the day, we're going to know how we're going to work. But there is no template to guide us. There have been no pandemic of this kind anywhere in the world to guide us. But our sons and daughters, with a commitment to their country, they have come up with this plan. And they are all that we have. And we have trusted their judgment. So when I reach to Value Mart and I see people standing, how long have you been there? Some 4 hours. But there really was no anger. There was a sense that our people at long last had come to understand that these are serious times. These are not times you can plan to go shopping, run there and run back out. Because we now have restrictions in the numbers, and you have to go there with an attitude that you are going to stick to it. That to me was important. I walked the long line and somebody, Lord, the line long, eh? I said, it's not so long because it got 6 feet apart between individuals. So it looked longer than normal because we are in a new role, new world order in which social distancing has now become vogue. And that is one of the things that we have to adjust ourselves to. We went to Rams. It was the same display. I asked which line you're in. Line for the elderly, line for the special or essential services, and suddenly everybody wants to be essential service, whether they are police, nurse, or what's not. So in times like these, either the very best will come from a people or the very worst. Our expectation is that the very best will come from most of the people in St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to remind our people that the regulations as they are enacted under the Emergency Powers Act starts with the presumption that everyone is staying at home. Being away from home is abnormal. That is what it is. So to be away from home, the critical thing, you are in shelter. And the safest shelter is your home, your neighborhood, your community. For you to go beyond that, there must be an overriding and compelling reason. And I want people to understand that. These times where people come to shop just because it is what we used to do, and we have to come to town to shop, we are saying for this period that we are under threat, buy in your local communities what you can get there. It will save you the 3, 4, 5 hours that you have to spend at Rams, at Value Mart, and wherever else. And it also minimizes your exposure to the difficulties and the transmission of the virus. So it is for your own good, and I want our people to see it that way. we can't get carried away with the little nitpicking that some people want to always find fault with. We want our people to say, we will give it a try. We will soldier on because we recognize these are uncharted waters. And if there is a biblical referent or reference, it was the story when you have to help me as a good Catholic, when it was the commandment was given, just step out on the waters. Take a step. Let's write who it was.
Yes, walking on the water.
Walking on the water. Peter. Oh, you must take a step. But it looked risky. But take the step and acceptance of faith in what we are doing in these uncharted waters. Never before seen. That is what is required of us. To have faith in what is being put by our CMO, supported by the best personalities we have in our health sector. And that is what I want to commend. I want to end then on a note of commendation. Because there are times when we grapple with West Nettlesford's notion that all we have is us. We wonder, can we rely on us? Who among us can rely upon to help us in the task of nation building? And we also have to put that in play with the Greek mythology of the children of Sisyphus. Oh, how it was that when they had the opportunity to go to the top of the mountain, self-doubt, always the rock will come tumbling down, and the task of getting up become ever so challenging. All we have is us. Today, when we drove through the terminal, the ferry terminal, I heard the policewoman, Donnelly Caesar, speaking, Donnelly Shiverton, on the sound system, saying, go home. Go to your shelter. You have finished your business in town. Go home, people. It is not for you after you would have finished your transactions in the supermarket, at the pharmacies, to stay around Bastia and to have a life. I want to big up Donnelly Shiverton for being a shining star. Those are the citizens on which the task of nation building will depend. Because what is the message? Stay in your shelter. Stay at home. And you have an opportunity during the partial curfew to move about with restrictions on your freedom. Avoid the excessiveness of abusing it, liming around town as if it is normal time. And when the police officer saw that, she was brave enough to say, go home. And I want to encourage our citizens and residents to stay at home. I heard a radio DJ on Freedom Radio talking about the nitpicking of people around the curfew. Like some of the questions we are asking. We want to know that it will be perfect. We want to know, well, why the police turned back somebody. All these, in my view, are little inconvenience against the Herculean challenge which we face. How do we protect our people so that we keep at a certain level in the transmission and we do not create a local pandemic, as it were, right here? So if the police have to turn you back, go back when they say go back. Because really and truly, the regulations under a state of emergency, you really should be home. But reasonableness dictates that you get a little space and time to do certain things, and we have attempted to give you. I want to commend the flexibility of the supermarket operators who today determined, after consultation with the police, that they were going to extend the hours from 3 o'clock a bit to allow those who were in the lines to be able to access their service. I want to commend them, and I want to thank the police for seeing that. And my expectation is that the police, having rolled out the program today, seeing how it has worked, tomorrow they will be better at doing what they must do to preserve the peace in the country. So I want to commend Commissioner Brandy, who is here, and Superintendent Henry. Let's give them a round of applause. Yes, we should, for their work. We started quickly this morning, and they brought it to a successful end. At about 2 or 3 o'clock, when I contacted the ACP for Operations, Mr. Adams, one of our hardest working police officers, how were things going? He said it was going very well. When I told him one of the requests I had had from an individual, he said, well, that can be accommodated. The police has been very reasonable and flexible in the circumstances, and I want to commend them. I want to thank the banks, because some of them began the physical distancing and the hand hygiene along in advance. I want to thank the church leadership, particularly of the Catholic Church, the Moravian, the Methodists, and all those churches who very early understood the urgency of the time and began to do the necessary adjustment. So, on that note of thankfulness, I want to say that I feel very confident that St. Kitts and Nevis can certainly lead the rest of the world in the sensible way in which we manage this particular pandemic. And I am confident that we will rise from this battle victorious, with a new redemption song in our heart, with a greater appreciation that all we have really is us. And we relied upon our people, their patriotism, their knowledge, their love for country, to guide our action plan and to bring us this resounding victory. So, fellow citizens and residents, cooperate with the police tomorrow. Don't bother to try to outsmart the system, because by doing so, you are risking your own lives. If you know you're already shopped, don't move to say you're no longer in East or in Central, because if you are found out, the penalty will be great. And I've advised the Attorney General, where we are having people attempting to outsmart the system, we are going to put some harsher penalties whenever we get into the Parliament. Because at this time of crisis, we want more virtuous people to come forward to assist us, to wage the war and to win the war against COVID-19. So thank you one and all, and thank you for your cooperation. We are a good people, and we know how to win this war, but we have to win it together, each one encouraging each other. May God bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and may God bless the St. Kitts and Nevis I love with all my heart. Thank you, and God bless you.